It's time for the Rundown with Rob Sanders.
We'll wait.
Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thank you for joining the show. I have a special guest in studio with me today. Of course, he's in the Clemson Ring of Honor, and he's a friend of the program. He's a former Pittsburgh Steeler. I could say all kinds of great stuff about my guest, but Levon Kirkland joins the program. Levon, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Oh, man, it's all good, man. Thank you so much for inviting me. It is a good week, man. At the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, we have our ceremonies. One is going to be tomorrow, our Bridge Builders Excellence Award. And then we have our Hall of Fame ceremony on Friday. So it's a busy week, but it's a good week.
Which is why I have you in here today. Normally,
Yes.
I would want you in here tomorrow because it's the first night of the NFL draft.
Yes.
But, you've got to go induct some folks into the Hall of Fame. That's important, too.
There's no question about it. But like I said, we just have our Bridge Builders tomorrow, and then we have our own ceremony. So it's a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of people, get to network, and really get to award some great people that deserve it.
Yeah, it's going to be a unique experience, and people can still get tickets for this, right?
They can, man, but it's almost done as far as the Hall of Fame, the ceremony is concerned. But also, you can join us at the Bridge Builders Excellence Award. It's going to be at Zen's in Greenville. We're going to be talking to some very bright young men that are going to do some great things. And, that ceremony is really not that long. We kind of announce the winner, and that's about it. But you do get to meet these great families and these great.
All right, so find Levon on Facebook. Just look for him there. You can figure out how to get your tickets for the South Carolina Hall of Fame.
Right.
And, of course, the induction is, on Friday. But I tell you what, let's talk some NFL draft. Before we get into that, though, we are monitoring closely the what's going on at Ridgeview High School today.
Mm-hmm.
The Gatorade Player of the Year, the #1 ranked basketball player in the country, Gigi Jackson, is going to announce his decision. He's narrowed it down to a couple of different spots. There is talk that Frank Martin did an interview the other day and said if he would have stayed at South Carolina, that he felt that Gigi Jackson would have been a Gamecock.
Really?
The words came out of Coach Martin's mouth, and I'm not one to question Coach Martin.
But, he seems to be a very straightforward kind of guy. So
right.
If he says that, maybe there's a merit to it.
Maybe so, but you know what I like about that, though, is the fact that South Carolina, you can make an argument that South Carolina is a great baseball state with, Coastal Carolina, South Carolina, both having national championships. Wofford is ranked 22nd in the country this year in college baseball. Football, you've got Clemson that's won national titles. South Carolina, they had a good segment in SEC play there for a bit, but as far as basketball goes, if it doesn't have Don Staley's name on it,
right?
It's kind of a reach. But this young man did his, I guess is the term due diligence I want to go with, but he went and actually visited South Carolina, which is a big deal on the basketball front. That he was actually considering. He took an official visit there, which he didn't take an official visit to Auburn and a couple of other schools that were on his list. But he actually went and visited South Carolina. And I really believe that, he still lists them as one of his top 6, but I think he's going to North Carolina. We'll follow that as we go this afternoon. But kind of nice to have that #1 ranked basketball player that comes right from here in the Midlands.
Well, we had Zion Williamson not too long ago, and then we had Jay Morant, right?
And John Morant. And remember,
I always want to call him Jay.
Kevin Garnett.
Kevin Garnett was one, yeah.
And Ray Allen played
Ray
Allen played at what was it? I can't remember, but it's in the upstate.
Was it Sumter High?
I can't remember. I think it was in the Hillcrest. He went to
Hillcrest, that's correct.
Yeah. So we've had some great basketball
Sumter,
players.
Though, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. My Ray Allen trivia is a little bit lacking there, but
yeah, mine's too.
But the point is that we've had great basketball players here.
Oh yeah.
And they go to
other places. And
the whole talk with football is you got to build a fence around your state and keep those players in there.
Right.
I guarantee you, if South Carolina or Clemson or whoever managed to keep a John Morant who played 3 years at Murray State,
Yeah,
or Zion Williamson was going to play 1 year and that was it.
that was all.
But still, you keep some of these other guys, your programs will be a lot further along.
Oh, no question about it. No question about it. When you get a big player like that, maybe other players would come as far as recruits are concerned, and you can make a nice run. And sometimes that's what it takes, a nice run, maybe a championship or two, and you get to build your program.
Right. And you mentioned the coverage that comes from that. I got to cover Zion Williamson when he was at Duke, when they played in the regional here in Columbia. What was it, like before COVID? And just being around him and the people that just swarmed to him and the people that came from far and wide just to see Zion Williamson and to cover the Duke basketball program. If you had that and you flipped it and it was, hey, the final 2 schools were Clemson and Duke.
Yeah.
And he went to Clemson.
Oh my
Think about how much that would have built that Clemson program.
At least for a couple of years or so. I mean, he would have been dynamic. There would have been a lot of coverage as far as Clemson basketball is concerned. And then you probably would have, maybe if you could have used that momentum to get some other number 1s or number 2s that are playing basketball.
He could have been a recruiting tool. Like, hey,
no question about
I
it.
went here. You're a number 1 guy. You should come here too.
Oh, and the Trevor Lawrence thing was also into play too. You had both the number 1 player from football and basketball. But I had a feeling that he wasn't going to come to Clemson. I thought it was just too good to be true.
Yeah,
that he would come to Clemson.
But I think today, and obviously we'll keep up with that, and we'll as soon as we know, we'll let you know. It looks like G.G. Jackson, according to the quote-unquote recruiting experts, they've got him going to North Carolina. He said he cried when he got his offer from North Carolina.
Wow.
Which, I mean, that says a good bit there. But I tell you, if he spun it and said, you know what, I'm going to go play for Coach Paris, that would set basketball on fire. Now, you want to be
especially
a trailblazer.
In South Carolina. Yes, it will.
Think about that. If you wanted to be a trailblazer and you wanted to be somebody that's done something that nobody else has ever done,
right? You
put all of your chips into Coach Paris's basket and said, you know what? I like the picks you gave us. I'm going to tell Coach Davis at North Carolina, no, I'm going to stay home.
Right.
And I'm going to go down here to the CLA and I'm going to try to dominate.
Oh, they may make a statue in your name.
I mean, Asia Wilson's got a statue. He may get one for 1 or 2 seasons down there. You never know.
This is true.
Anyway, we're going to keep up with that for you. But I want to talk a little bit about the NFL draft here with Levon. And we talked a little bit about when you got drafted, and you posted something that you were the 38th pick in the draft when you were drafted. How did your draft day go?
Okay. Well, it went like this. I was going to my sister's home and I begged her to get two-way calling back in the day because she didn't have it. And, it was kind of more of a family gathering, not a lot of people from the outside of the family. And I just remember kind of understanding that, I don't know if I'm going in the first round because I was more of a tweener. I played outside and most guys were projecting me to be an inside linebacker at the NFL. So I kind of guess I wasn't going in the first round, but I really had an interview with Bill Cowher in the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I felt really good about that team. And that was the team I wanted to play for because I definitely wanted to play for him. Don't tell me why I thought that way, but I did. And so when the 38th pick came up, I went to the bathroom. They give them like 15 minutes before they actually hand in the note, tell them who they have. And I looked in the mirror and I was just like, they're going to pick me. They're going to pick me. They're going to pick me. I was so confident that I went to the kitchen table where the phone was and I sat by the kitchen table and the phone rang and I got the phone and it was Tom Donahoe. And he was like, hey, Levon, this is Tom Donahoe for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're really considering picking you for the next pick. And I'm like, ooh, considering. And then a gentleman named Charles Bailey came on, and we had some conversations throughout the draft process. And he was like, do y'all have cable TV in Lamar, South Carolina? I was like, I'm not in Lamar, but we do have cable TV.
I would have slowed down and been like, if I see you, I'm going to slap the hell out of you.
Right,
We're not hillbillies down here.
And then he was like, do y'all have ESPN? And I'm like, it comes with the basic package. But he said, hey, I want you to watch the ticker. Your name's going to come up. Congratulations. Welcome to the Black and Gold.
I mean,
And I was on cloud 9.
I know you had to be respectful, but that would have been like, really?
I was like, could you tell me
let me
either
know what's going
yay or nay? But I'm glad it was yay, man. I end up having a great time in Pittsburgh and a really awesome career for me. But I just had a feeling, I just wanted to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. And I wasn't a Pittsburgh Steeler fan growing up. Actually, I didn't really like the Steelers. I actually liked Dallas. But Bill Cowher, talking to him, really I wanted to be a part of it.
All right. So, and if I go too far, tell me, but after you're drafted, I mean, it's kind of wheels have to hit the ground quick, right?
Pretty quickly, yes.
And you kind of, you kind of already knew because they kind of cast it with this is what you're going to make. So you don't have to really worry about that with your rookie contract, right?
Right. Back in that day, it just pretty much fell in line.
Right.
You didn't make more than the 37th pick, and you shouldn't make lower than the 39th pick.
Right. But you kind of had an idea, and it's cast, and all right, this is what I'm going to make. But then you've got to figure out, and you're a young guy,
right?
So you got to figure out. Wait a minute, I got to go to Pittsburgh, and I got to find a place to stay. And I mean, there's just all kind of things that happen really quick, right?
Yeah, you got to probably purchase a vehicle. I didn't have one at the time, so that was a part of it. But really, I didn't really worry about getting a place to stay because they kind of housed you at first. But once the season starts, then you have to think about those different.
You had to pay your sister back for that call waiting.
Yeah, I did. She fussed at me so badly, man.
I'm sure she did.
But she did. I love you, Barbara. Thank you so much.
But no, I mean, but you get up there and they've got you a place set up, or,
right?
Like a hotel room or something, right?
It was kind of like a apartment building. It was okay. Yeah, but yeah, you had a little place to stay. Yeah, you grow up really fast. You have to grow up pretty fast.
So you grow up quick there because you have to get up there and you start the off-season workouts, right? That's kind of the first thing.
Yeah.
And that's not with the veterans. I mean, you do rookie workouts first, or?
Well, in our situation, because Coach Cowher was a new coach, you practice with the vets. Like we did it, I think we reported that Thursday after the draft, and we had a mini camp. And so we did it with the vets. Normally, if your coach has been there before, it's just the rookies. But my first year, we did it with everybody.
So what was your welcome to the NFL moment?
Ooh, my welcome to the NFL moment is when I walked out there and I saw the offensive linemen like Damani Dawson, Hasselrig, and John Jackson. And those guys were fast and strong and smart, and they'll get on you before you even make a move. So it's just like, wow, I got to really up my game a little bit. And it's a position that I never played before. So I had to get accustomed to the new position and just the speed of the game. So that was the wake-up call for me.
And, of course, you go out and you have your first set of workouts. And then do you remember your first preseason game?
Yes.
How did that come about?
I was nervous.
I mean,
I was on the kickoff team, and my knees were kind of buckling a little bit. But as the game went along, it went pretty well. And I actually had a pretty good preseason, but I wasn't going to be the starter that year. I knew I wasn't going to be playing. But the naive me thought that we rotated like we did in college, like you get a few snaps, and, the guy behind you gets a few snaps. But I quickly learned that that's not the way in the NFL, that you have to earn that starter spot. And if you're a starter, you never go out the game unless it's like the very end.
So who was the guy ahead of you on the depth chart?
David Little was the guy, and David was there for about 12 years. He was a Pro Bowl player, but they wanted – I think that initially it was Hardy Nickerson that they were thinking about me replacing. But Hardy left in free agency the year after, and David Little was there. So – yeah, it was tough getting in there, but I learned the position, and I understood the game. So my second year was my first year starting.
So, but with that though, your first year you had the opportunity. I mean, you probably played on special teams a little bit, right?
I played on special teams. I played a little bit on defense. I actually rushed the passer a little bit because I did it at Clemson. Right. But it was just mostly special teams that I played.
But that's awesome though, because you were basically given a chance to grow and set yourself up in a mold where, you could take care of even the stuff off the field, but when you came in your second year, you kind of knew what the NFL was.
Yes.
And you kind of knew what you had to do. You knew the playbook. You knew the coaching staff.
Yes.
I mean, I think a lot of times with guys that are drafted now, they don't really get that opportunity.
They really don't. And like I said, I got a chance to learn behind David Little and Hardy Nickerson and just kind of understand what the game was all about. Right. And I did you do a lot of scout team stuff, and you learn from there because you're going against your best starting lineup every practice. So gradually you become better as a player. So for me, it was invaluable. I mean, all the stuff that I've learned as far as that first year.
All right, let's go out to the phones. Of course, the phone lines are open at 803-978-1832. We'll take our first call here. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon. Well, they'll call us back. 803-978-1832. But they don't really get that opportunity now to just blossom.
Yeah, some guys don't.
Some guys don't.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the draft, we'll go over some of the Colin Cowherd called it a starless draft. I think that's kind of arrogant, in my opinion, because I think there are certain things that you can there are certain players that you can get that could be cornerstones for your franchise. But I have a theory when it comes to if you have a top 10 pick, you have to first get your quarterback.
Yeah, no question.
If you don't have your quarterback, then you need to get if you have a quarterback, you need to get somebody to protect your quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think if you're in the top 10, that's what you need to go after. If not, you should do what the Patriots do and trade out. Go down where you can get more picks, where you can accumulate more talent later on.
Well, every franchise thinks differently. Everybody has a different process. But I don't think that's a bad way of looking at things. I mean, for example, if I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm looking for someone who can protect Trevor Lawrence this year.
Right.
You look, because you would think that ETN is coming and maybe he can get the running game going a little bit, but you got to protect that prize quarterback, because if you don't protect him, he's going to get hit a lot and you may just wear him out. So in that case, yeah. But then in a lot of cases too, I agree with you as far as quarterback, franchise quarterback, offensive line, but I also would probably go defensive end as well.
Right. And that was going to be my third thing is that you want to get, if you have the opportunity, get the best pass rusher.
Yes.
Because if you can break the quarterback, not necessarily break in a hurtful way, but if you can hurry that quarterback and make him make bad decisions, that's going to help you out too.
Yeah, that's a part of it. And especially if you have a division with some great quarterbacks. Now, if you look at the North, I think that's with Pittsburgh and Cleveland and all those guys. Right. They have some really up-and-coming quarterbacks who can scramble, who can get out of situations. So you're going to need some DNs that can get after the quarterback.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment when we come back. Brandon's got a great question about Deebo Samuel. I want to talk to you about him because he's in a unique spot.
Right.
Where you were talking about a tweener. He's a classic tweener.
Yeah, no question.
So we'll get into that, and we'll talk about some other things that are good rolling up here on the rundown. As always, you can join us at 803-978-1832. Remember, we're brought to you by Mazda of Columbia. If you need a new car, go to MazdaofColumbia.com. You can check out their inventory and buy yourself a car really quick like. Simple. More of the rundown. We come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. All right, Brandon, I'll get to your question in a moment. Let's see here. Big Barney Ross is hilarious. What a great name. Big Barney Ross. That's pretty funny. He was telling me about, what was it the other night where the coach for Kentucky, Coach Stoops, has his own bourbon company.
Really?
And it's called Torr. Torr is the name of the bourbon, which I guess if I'm living in Kentucky, I'm going to own my own bourbon company if I have, disposable income. Why not? Why would you not have your own bourbon company?
I frequent Kentucky a good bit. My wife, my former wife is from Kentucky, and bourbon is really big there. You go anytime you go into the airport, they're talking about bourbon.
Do you drink bourbon?
I'm not a big bourbon guy.
You a vodka guy?
I'm more of a vodka guy.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm more of a vodka guy. But as I age, maybe I start trying some of that brown water. See what it tastes like, you know.
Peg and Megan over there, he likes Zima with cherries in it. That's what he told us the other day on the show.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I'm gonna tell you, I like vodka with lemonade, man.
Vodka with lemonade, that's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I don't drink much,
but I'm not a big drinker
anymore.
though.
I'm not. But
I've never been a big drinker.
I mean, I used to be able to turn some back, but I don't drink much anymore. But I do like good bourbon though.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to, I may have to start sipping a little bit of
bourbon. I've got some bourbon. Big Barney Ross sent me. I may give you some of it.
Man, do that.
Brandon wants to know if you and John Abraham are the only NFL players from Lamar.
No,
they turn them out down there.
We turn them out. We got we've had, this draft we have a guy that has a possibility of getting drafted our free agency, Kobe Durant. So we've, if Kobe gets in, we've had 6 guys who have been in the NFL from Lamar. We're a 1A school with about 300 kids.
All right, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Brandon was asking about if Levon and John Abraham are the only NFL players from Lamar, and Levon gave us the education. We may have a 6th guy that may be in the NFL. So that's that. I mean, something's in the water.
Very proud of him. Kobe Durant played for South Carolina State. He's a ball hawk. He'll go get the ball. The only weakness that I think he's a little undersized, perhaps.
Well, I mean, something's in the water in Lamar, though.
There's something in the water. I don't know. You know what I think it is, to be honest with you? I think it's just like the gentleman that ran the first 4-minute mile. It just takes one guy to do it, and then everybody else starts doing it. And it was kind of funny. I used to tease the coaches at Clemson every year about, hey, if you go down every 10 years, go down to Lamar, South Carolina, and you get your player who's going to the NFL.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
It basically has happened.
I mean, kind of hard to argue with that.
Right.
But anyway, so we're talking about the NFL draft today and what's going to happen tomorrow night. It's been called a starless draft, but I think there are some guys that you can make a cornerstone part of your program. We'll get into that in a moment, but I want to go back to Brandon's question about Deebo Samuel with the San Francisco 49ers. He's basically said, hey, I want to trade because he wants to be paid like a wide receiver. He wants Devontae Adams money.
Right.
But San Francisco sees him as a running back. So that's kind of how they're putting the ball in his hands.
Right.
And they're wanting to pay him like he's a running back. But I mean, he's like, yeah, and he is their offense. Let's just be completely honest.
Yeah.
It's him and Kittle, basically.
Right.
But do you think that he, first of all, is he worth the wide receiver money? And do you think that he's going to leave?
He's worth the money.
So he's worth Devontae Adams money.
I don't know about Devontae Adams money,
right.
But I think he's worth a great deal because he's used like a queen piece in chess. He's used all over the place. And San Francisco definitely going to say, yeah, we want to pay him like a running back because they used him in the backfield, but the guy is a weapon all over the field. So I would look, if I'm Deebo, and I mean, I would just say, like, look at the production that I've had over the past few years. Wherever you put me, I have made plays, whether that's on the outside or whether that's on the inside. Now you want to label me as, just a running back. So if I'm Deebo, I have a problem with that.
Do you think he's a modern version of Marshall Faulk, the way that the Rams moved him all over the field and he would line up and catch balls in the flat and just do all kind of stuff?
Yeah, I would put him between a Cordell Stewart and a Marshall Faulk.
Okay.
Cordell Stewart and a Marshall Faulk, because Cordell, you can put him on the outside and he could catch the ball, make plays. So I would put him between those two guys. I think he's a special talent, to be honest with you.
Right.
And for San Francisco, they want to pay him, but of course they don't want to pay him the money. Most organizations don't want to pay you what you're worth unless you're just so valuable They can't do without you. And I guarantee you, if the 49ers get rid of Debo, their offense is going to fall apart.
Well, they've got, you know, Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't exactly the answer there. I mean, he was.
Yeah, he's a above serviceable quarterback. He's a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback if you're thinking about top 5 or anything like that. He's not
they drafted,
in that category.
They drafted Trey Lance.
Yeah.
I mean, that tells me the confidence they have in him that, hey, we're going to draft this guy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they were looking for his replacement.
Yeah, that's the NFL. They're always looking for your replacement, no matter who you are. Unless you're one of those big-time quarterbacks, then they try to keep you as long as possible.
How, as a player, do you respect management when during contract time, they're basically telling you, yeah, I don't think that you're worth this, but in reality, Deebo Samuel took hits last year that, I mean, he got popped a lot, more than the average wide receiver did. And now they're telling him, hey, you did all of this stuff and put your body on the line for us, and we're going to be cheap people and try to underpay you. I mean, how does that? I mean, is there like an unsaid respect between management and the players? But for me, I would be like, I don't like any of y'all.
It would, to me, that is just an awakening for a player, because you're always taught to give your best, blood, sweat, and tears for the team.
Right.
And you come in with that kind of attitude, and then they pull something like this, then you take a step back. It's just like being in a relationship, and you're doing everything for the relationship, and then they do something that sets you back a little bit, that you have to say, you know what, let me take a step back. And I think that's where Debo is like, you know what, now this is business. Pay me or I want to get traded.
He's definitely earned his money.
He definitely has.
And I'm wondering how they have to come up with a happy medium there, because someone else will give him that money. He's not going to get Devontae Adams money, but I think he'll be.
If you're John Lynch, make it work.
Yeah, they got to figure that out.
Make it work, because all the time when you're talking about the NFL, you're talking about weapons. Deebo Samuels is a great weapon, man. You can put him in the backfield, put him in the slot, maybe even put him outside. I'm not sure. And the guy can make plays.
He definitely can. So they got to figure that out. But the Carolina Panthers, they're looking for a quarterback.
Yes.
They put some money into Sam Darnold, and it has Levon's rolling his eyes over there, but that hasn't exactly worked out.
Has not.
So much so that they brought Cam Newton back, and to basically say, all right, go out there and try to clean up the mess. And then Cam Newton wasn't exactly wasn't great. So they're going into this season with a hole in the quarterback spot. There's talk that Baker Mayfield, who is in the mix, and then there's another look from Levon. The Panthers at quarterback right now, I mean, it's a problem. If you were general manager of the Panthers, would you draft a quarterback, or would you make a trade and try to get Baker Mayfield to come to Charlotte?
I'm not sure if I really like the Baker Mayfield trade.
Is it because he's 5'8"? I mean, just be honest.
Well, he's underwhelming as far as an athlete is concerned.
Right.
I think he's a pretty good passer of the ball, but I thought he had a great situation at Cleveland, where they had a great running game, great linemen, great wide receivers, and he still couldn't get them basically over the hump.
Well, and that's why Cleveland bet the farm on Deshaun Watson. They said, you know what, we're going to look past all of the stuff with sexual assault allegations and all of that. We're going to look past that, and we're going to give you the biggest contract, I believe, in NFL history.
Yes.
We don't care. That's what they think of Baker Mayfield. And Baker, that should say a lot for you.
I mean, a lot of times you look at players, and everybody's always talking about, I work hard, I got all this, but nothing ever over trumps tremendous talent. And Deshaun Watson has tremendous talents, intangibles. He was in a mess, but as far as a football player, you can understand why they may say, you know what, we're going with that guy. Baker, thank you so much for the seasons that you had. You did okay, but we're going with a big gun.
I thought about it the other day. And the situation that they had him in, where I think he had the offensive line, according to Pro Football Focus, was ranked in the top 6.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as wide receivers to throw the ball to, he had Odell Beckham Jr.
Right.
And he had Jarvis Landry.
Yeah.
Who came off a season where he caught over 100 passes or something like that. That was some of the tools in the toolbox they had, and he wasn't very good with them. Put Deshaun Watson with that,
Right.
he would have lit the scoreboard up like a Christmas tree.
No doubts about it, and that's what Cleveland looked at. They said we got everything that we need, besides a Super Bowl type caliber of a quarterback. And so they looked at the situation, and they're just like, hey man, let's risk it and just go after Deshaun and see what happens. If you plug him in, then you're cooking with a lot of hot grease. I like I said, if I'm Carolina, I might draft a quarterback. And I think there's one quarterback that's probably worthy, and that's the guy from Liberty.
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis, that has a lot of upside.
Well, I posted something on my blog page, and we'll get into that about Wonderlic scores.
Okay, yeah.
And we'll get into that when we come back. Levon Kirkland joining us here on the Rundown. Feel free to call at 803-978-1832. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Did you know that? Malik Willis's Wonderlic score was a 32.
Wow.
You want to take a guess what Kenny Pickett's was?
I don't know what it was.
17.
Gee whiz.
Yeah. I thought you got 8 for writing your name on it.
I thought you did too.
I don't know. I don't know.
And, see, I would think that the Wonderlic test is more so, I don't know.
Hey,
you hope it's not biased, but I guess it's more of a quarterback test than anything else.
What's that? Yeah.
I think it's more of a quarterback test than anything else.
You didn't take the Wonderlic?
We didn't take it.
Okay.
We didn't take it.
I wasn't being a smart. I just didn't know. I didn't know if they made everybody take it.
No, back in our day, they did make us take it at all.
That's kind of. I'd want to take the Wonderlic test to see how I'd score.
I wouldn't mind, but everybody's different. I mean, you could. I mean, some guys can make high on it, and it doesn't matter because they can't play. The biggest question is, can they play? That's what I want to know. Can they play? And could our coaching staff take them to the next level?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that simple, but
who knows at this point? I think it comes back down to the point: can they actually play? That's basically what it boils down to.
When you start asking yourself so many questions, let's go back and watch the film and say, well, can they play?
I mean, they miss on guys all the time too. I mean, you look at
because it's not an exact science.
Yeah.
That's all, but you can't. But I think as a scout, you should be able to recognize great talent, and then as a GM, you got to be able to pick that talent that's going to fit your team.
Yeah.
So you're getting paid all this money and you're saying it's not an exact science, but what the heck are they paying you all this money for?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Figure it out.
Yeah. You would have to maybe, as a GM especially, I mean, you can't be busting that much where you just, we missed on them. You do all this investigation. Why? You got to get, at least you got to get that first rounder right.
Well, but Brandon asked about Justin Ross and where he's going to get drafted. I think the injury thing is a big deal with him, but I remember Mike Williams broke his neck at Clemson.
Right.
And that now, I mean, he got a contract that's absurd with the Chargers.
But the thing about Mike Williams was he hurt. He was hurt one year, then he came back and had a great year. Right. And so they're just like, well, his neck is really not an issue. I think with Justin, his injuries are an issue, and people are not quite sure how available he'll be.
All right, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Levon Kirkland joins us in studio. Out to the phones we go. And let's see here. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, sir. How you doing?
Good. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. I was just wondering, you guys both have accomplished great things in your life. Do y'all ever have days when you miss waking up and putting on the uniform that you proudly wore? For you, Rob, it was the Navy. For Mr. Kirkland, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll hang up and listen.
Well, thank you for that.
That's very nice.
That is very nice. I was a Coast Guardsman, so I do miss my uniform. But, yeah, I mean, that's weird call to have, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I can imagine getting up and putting on that NFL uniform too, though. And it's like, man, the day that you had to
Yeah.
unwrap your tape for the last time, that had to
Yeah,
suck.
it was definitely a transition. I normally only miss my uniform during playoff times.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is the time where it's the most competitive and you're playing, the stakes are high. So I miss that, but I do also miss running out the tunnel.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
part of it.
that was pretty
You don't
cool.
miss the grind of
I don't
practice and
miss I
everything
don't
else.
miss I don't miss I do miss sometimes the physicality of it all, and you do miss the competition. But I mean, you did it while you were young and while you were able, and I can't look back and regret anything. But yeah, I think I miss it. I miss it during the playoffs time. That's the only time I miss it.
So getting back to the draft for a little bit here, we've actually talked about this on the show where Kenny Pickett, there was talk about his hand measurement and how his hands are so small.
Yeah.
In reality, does that really matter?
Some people put a lot of emphasis on things just like that. His hands are not big enough and he's going to fumble. So for some teams, it means something. For other teams, not as much. You got to look, has he fumbled a lot during his career? Can he still throw the ball? That's the most important thing. But yeah, I see for some teams, hand size could be an issue.
Could be. All right. So I told you as soon as I got the word on this, I would put it out there. North Carolina is the school for G.G. Jackson, who is listed as one of the top players in the country from right here at Ridgeview High School. 6'9" power forward.
Wow.
He joins guard Simeon Welcher in the Tar Heels class. And by the way, not to get too much into basketball, but all of North Carolina's players pretty much came back.
Yeah.
They're going to be a hell of a team next year.
They should be. They should be a really good team, a team
Yeah.
that you probably look at as being maybe the national champions.
Well, we'll have to see upon that. But 6'9", 210 pound. They call him a stretchy big who can do a little bit of everything. And it makes you wonder just a little bit, especially if you're a Gamecock fan. Man, the inroads they had with Coach Martin, and not to take anything away from Coach Paris because he's trying to build the program the way that he wants it. But man, you would think, and I read something where the parents were just shocked. The dad for G.G. Jackson was like, I can't believe this happened. I thought they were going to give him more time, etc. But
right,
it's and it may end up being that Coach Paris has a wonderful career here and does great stuff with the Gamecock program, but Coach Martin's on the record as saying, yeah, if I would have stayed there, he would have come to South Carolina.
Well, he's probably developed a relationship during his time.
He was one of the first to offer him.
Yeah, sometimes that's what it is. You catch these kids where they're young and you develop these relationships. That's why they have basketball camps, football camps, so they can get in and see who is the next guy. So that relationship probably, it hurt when South Carolina lost Coach Martin. And so they missed out on a guy that is going to be a pretty good basketball player.
Yeah, he has the potential to be great. All right, I want to talk a little bit about your time with the when you were with the Cardinals.
Right.
How did the draft work for you guys? I mean, you actually probably did a lot of evaluating players and things like that as their linebacker coach, right?
Well, I was kind of like the assistant under the assistant. So I would evaluate some guys, and they actually asked, I got into the war room. They really asked my opinion about certain dudes, and you try to give it to them as best as possible. But there's a whole scouting department, which is it's kind of funny. They have the scouting department, then they have the coaching staff, and a lot of times those opinions don't really mesh together.
Well, does it all come back down to basically the coach and the GM? Like they can have, like, let's say that you're a high on this great guy over here, and someone else is like, yeah, I like him, but not as much as this guy. Do they take all of those opinions, roll them together, and figure out which way they're going to go?
You would hope they would, but sometimes you never know. Maybe they are more so secure with one guy's opinion over another guy's opinion, even though that opinion may be a little wrong. So I think there's so many guys there that are evaluating that sometimes it just gets a little messy, and you're wondering, well, who do we get? Because one guy is saying this and one guy is saying that. So I think for the first, especially for your first 3 rounds, it has got to come together. And then scouts who are looking at guys who are in the lower rounds, you got to trust their opinion about these free agencies and so forth. But yeah, I think it can get a little messy, man, because you got so many guys with so many opinions about the same player.
It's just interesting how all of that works. And then, of course, you got to think about salaries and stuff like that too. I mean,
Sure, yeah.
if you paid a little bit too much for somebody, you may want to move out of the top 20 picks or whatever, just as far as budget goes.
And nowadays, the NFL, their teams they're basically being young. They're staying young. They don't really have a lot of wily veterans there that can kind of show the way, show the culture. When I was in Pittsburgh, you had a sense of the Pittsburgh, for example, for me, the linebackers. You kind of knew the legacy of the linebackers,
right?
And that was kind of brought down on you that if you're a Pittsburgh linebacker, you got to be a certain way,
right?
So that's a part of it. But nowadays, there's not always a lot of veterans that can kind of show the young guys in what direction.
Because I was thinking you said it yourself. You were kind of a tweener backer, so
right.
I mean, you were kind of different from what Pittsburgh had, but they had a vision for you.
They did.
And it obviously ended up working.
It did, man. I thought I was going to be the next Lawrence Taylor, man. And I just, the first person who really saw me that way was Art Shell. And he's like, you're a big guy. You can run. I think you'd be an excellent inside linebacker instead of outside backer. And he's like, you want to play, let's put you at inside linebacker at the Senior Bowl. And I just remember for one moment, I was just like, dang, there goes my draft. And then I thought about it. It's like, you know what, man, just run to the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know the position, but I know that I can run to the ball and make plays, and that's what I did.
Yeah, if you can hit people and you have a motor, someone's going to take care of you eventually.
Somebody's going to take care of you. So that a lot of times is that the basic question. When you have a lot of questions about a guy, did you just break it down and say, can he play?
Can he play? How good is the tape?
Yeah, how good is his tape?
Yeah. All right, well, Levon Kirkland joining us in studio. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap it up here on the rundown. Of course, you can follow Levon on Facebook, and you're on Twitter as well. I can't remember your Twitter handle off the top of my head. We'll look it up during the break. But Levon put some good stuff out there. And, of course, don't forget the South Carolina Hall of Fame. Your one ceremony tomorrow night, the induction on Friday.
Right.
Be sure to get involved with that. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We'll be right back.
That's pretty good.
So those camps, I mean, you see a lot of the top talent that's out there.
I've seen some of the top talent. Yeah.
So Levon works different camps with rivals, and he goes out and works with some of the young folks that are out there.
Coming linebackers, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
One of the guys that I work with, well, actually, is it Simpson, the linebacker for Clemson?
Yeah,
I worked with him before. Venables kid, I worked with him before. So there's different guys that you work with. These guys get offers. So
that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So
and you just teach them little stuff that like, oh, okay, makes sense. I'm like, I just want to teach you something that you can take back home. You don't really try to, turn their world all around.
You can teach them, how to plant your hand or how to.
Well, a lot of times, like for us, it's just teaching them, eye placement and how to make sure you're reading the back hip and you don't let that guy fake you out. And sometimes they don't trust it, but when they do trust it, they see that it really works.
But you can't, all of that though, you can't teach a kid heart though. If they don't have the heart,
Yeah,
I mean, you
can't teach them that. I
can't
mean,
teach them that.
Yeah, it's just you just teach them drills that they can do that can help them get better.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's cool. I think it to really have I think to really coach a guy, you have to know him for a while and understand them. And some guys, they're not going to get it. They're not.
We'll answer your question in a moment, Jim, when we come back from a break here in a second. Let's take this call first. Final segment of the rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Jimmy asked, as Levon Kirkland's in studio with us, he says, would you ever want to get back into a coaching position again in the NFL or college?
Ooh, I'm not sure about the NFL, even though I did enjoy the NFL. I enjoy the players. I'm going to tell you what would be a great situation for me. A good high school program where I can not only teach them the game of football, but I can also teach them life lessons.
Right.
To me, that would be an ideal situation where I can go in every day. I can coach, maybe even teach a class, but also have the opportunity to talk life into these student athletes. That would be one of the reasons why I go back to coaching.
What class would you want to teach if you had your?
I don't know, something easy. I mean, maybe something like a development class.
I could see you as a history teacher up there.
I could be a history teacher.
Yeah,
I could be a history teacher, but yeah, that would be ideal for me because it's for me what I love is pouring back into others' lives and helping them to, helping them really to retain their goals and to go after things and give them insight that they may not have had before. Pro football is the best because you're teaching the best and they want to learn anyway.
Right.
And college football, depending on the program you're at, sometimes that can be a headache. And, like a high school program, that's a bad program. Boy, you got to do a lot of like redoing and rebuilding, and that could be tough. But if you get yourself to a really good program, I think, to me, that would be ideal.
I read something the other day about, and I think I talked a little bit about this on the air here, where Matt Luke, who was the offensive line coach at Georgia, basically retired at 45.
Right.
And a lot of it, he said, had to do with the fact that the recruiting.
Yeah.
And it's not only the recruiting of bringing new folks into the program, but you got to babysit the guys that are there because of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And by the time you get done doing all that, then you got to pour yourself into them as far as being a player too, because you're responsible for their development.
Right.
And when you're at a top tier program like Georgia, like he was, you got to have good offensive linemen.
You do.
And if, you just stretch yourself so thin that I think a lot of people are going to get out of college coaching. I really do.
I think so. Like I said, I think high school is a great way where you can really have an impact on a lot of kids. Or even junior high, I just want to be a good situation from top to bottom. I wouldn't want to go into a situation where it's a mess and you're working against the AD's working against you, and you're working against the principal. That's not going to work out.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right about that. But I think we're going to see a shift here where a lot of coaches may decide, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore.
It's too, like in college, man, it could be, I can see where it can be a little bit much. I really can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to recruit these guys all the time. Like, at least in the NFL, everybody thinks the NFL is tougher on the coaching end, but actually it's really not. You get more at Arizona, you get more time off than a college coach do.
Right.
Because you don't really have to recruit.
Right.
At all. So you can get like a month off after the season. One year we got a whole month off from the NFL. And it's like, wow, a whole month off. Man, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
And then you get time, you get time. You don't really, it's not so much I gotta recruit this guy, I gotta call this guy, blah, blah, blah. I mean, around the draft, it's a little busy.
Right.
But then after the draft, you do the OTAs, you're good. You're going to get some time off.
I just think a lot of guys are going to try to move on from that. I really do.
Yeah.
So,
I think the landscape of college football is going to really change. I don't know how much. I think a lot of teams are going to start breaking away from the NCAA.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen, and it's going to get to a point where who's going to be the governing body? I mean, how's that going to work? I have a question for you before we get out of here. And I meant to get to this yesterday.
Okay.
How much of that wonderful Kentucky bourbon would you have to pick a fight with Mike Tyson on a plane?
A whole lot.
A whole lot.
Almost all of it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the video or not, but
yeah.
Mike Tyson basically beat the hell out of somebody on a plane because they were messing with him. And he told him, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone.
So you're going to mess with the heavyweight champion of the world.
I think
so. AKA baddest man on the planet.
Yeah.
And plus, I don't know if I mess with guys with tattoos on their face.
That's a no-go, right?
Yeah, that's just kind of a common sense thing. If a guy gets a tattoo to his face, he probably can take a punch or two. Yeah. So you may not want to get into the mix with a guy like that. So even if you didn't know who Mike Tyson was, you did see the tattoo on his face. That should have been an indication that he is not to be messed with.
Well, I mentioned that because Mike Tyson may step into the ring with 25-year-old U2 superstar Logan Paul.
Wow.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Jake Paul.
Jake Paul.
They're brothers. My bad. But he may step in the ring with him.
Hmm.
Now, if I'm Mike Tyson, and I don't know Mike Tyson's financial stuff, I don't know any of that. But if it's for money, then that's sad. But I mean, if I'm Mike Tyson and I don't have to worry about money, I'm not saying that Jake Paul is going to give him a fight because I don't know how good of a fighter Jake Paul is. Mm-hmm. But I don't want my last vision of Mike Tyson being him getting clocked by a guy who made himself famous on YouTube.
Yeah, and it could just be one of those things where Mike had his guard down and, the guy overhand rights him or something like that.
Well, he's 30 years older than this guy.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
Yeah. But, it's but Mike Tyson was so skilled, man. I mean, if he trains hard, he'll probably beat this guy. But you never know.
Well, but the sad part about it though is that I would want Mike Tyson to clock this guy.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, Mike Tyson would go into it, and there were a lot of fights where you respected him, but you were thinking, man, this guy is does this guy have a chance? Mm-hmm. With this, I think he would be the ultimate babyface. Everybody wants to see Mike Tyson knock this guy out.
Now, was this the same guy that was on WrestleMania? The Paul?
No, that was Logan Paul.
Logan Paul. He was actually pretty good.
Yeah, they're both big, huge guys. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be something that I'd pay money to see that fight, but I don't know if I want to see Mike Tyson possibly get clocked. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, you don't. You don't want to see a great heavyweight get beat by
anybody. Go watch Muhammad Ali's last couple of fights, and you're just like, come on, man.
But these guys were professional fighters, though.
Right.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to get somebody who's kind of like just a guy who's on YouTube or he's a sensation, you don't want the heavyweight champ to lose to that guy.
All right, I got about 90 seconds here. Tell us a little bit about the Hall of Fame. Of course, tomorrow, the building.
Tomorrow we have what we call the Bridge Builders Excellence Award, and we have our what we call top 10 nominees from the high schools of South Carolina. They have normally a GPA of 3.4. They're great players and they're great leaders in the community. So we will be awarding one of those guys as our Bridge Builders Excellence Award. That's a lot to say. And then on Friday, we have, of course, our ceremony for the greats of South Carolina who's been involved in football. We got guys like my late friend Chester McLaughlin, who'll be getting the Legacy Award. We got Jeff Bostic. We have Dwayne Harper. We have Peter Boulware. And then also not last, but we have Mr. Rick Stanford, man, who's a great friend of this show and other shows. And so we got those guys, and we're going to be giving them the praise they deserve, man. Congratulations.
Well, I have to get Billy's question out of here really quickly here. I call Tennessee's offense with Josh Heupel a gimmick.
Yeah.
Is that Are you buying that?
Yeah, it is gimmick.
There you go. Thank you, Billy. 11-year vet in the NFL says it's a gimmick. You can shut the hell up about that now. It is a gimmick, sir. All right, tomorrow on the rundown, we'll look at the NFL draft some more. Levon, thanks for joining us on the program, man. I really appreciate it.
Man, Rob, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll be back at it tomorrow here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I tried telling you, Billy. You don't want to listen. It's a gimmick, brother. See you guys later.